Welcome Methuselahs. This is the last video of the unboxing of new blood decks. It's time for the Ministry. The Ministry is a vampire clan of temptation. They delight in sin, pushing boundaries to the extreme, and use deceptive powers to draw unsuspecting victims into doing their bidding. This mischievous deck forsakes defense for strong offense. Your vampire minions use politics, entrancement, and Anarch trickery to damage your enemies, and evade getting captured by use of mind tricks and shape changing. This is a collection of 55 cards, and one of those is a new one. As usual, at the back we find the information of the copyrights and the distributors of this product. Let's unbox it. Crystal Lynn is the art chosen for the cover. We can read beginner level, and we find the logos of Wall of Darkness and Black Chantry Productions. At the back, we can find a quick reference for beginners. Turn sequence, disciplines, clans, titles, and other icons are exposed. Let's start with the Crypt cards. Coach Tyrone Soros is an Anarch of capacity 3 with basic presence and obfuscate. Crystal Lynn, Anarch of capacity 6 and protean presence and obfuscate at superior. Elisha Tucker, Anarch Baron of Pittsburgh, capacity 6, presence at superior and protean, obfuscate and celerity at basic. Marcel, Anarch of capacity 4, protean, presence and obfuscate at basic. Sergio Bueno, this is the new card. Anarch Baron of Santo Domingo. Minions with one or more of your corruption counters must burn 1 blood or life to attempt to block Sergio, capacity 8, protean, presence and obfuscate at superior, potence and auspex at basic. Vivian VI, Anarch Baron of Johannesburg, capacity 7, protean, presence at superior and thaumaturgy and obfuscate at basic. Okay, the library cards. Anarch Railroad. It's a master that costs 2 pull. Unique location. You can lock this card to give an Anarch +1 stealth. Anarch Salon is a political action. Requires an Anarch. Successful referendum means each ready Anarch gains 1 blood and each Methuselah controlling an Anarch gains 1 pull. 2 copies of Bait and Switch. It's a reaction. Requires a baron. Only usable if a minion is bleeding you. After blocks are declined. Lock this reacting vampire. Change the target of the bleed to another Methuselah other than the acting minion's controller that Methuselah can attempt to block. Cave of Apples. It's a master that requires ministry. It costs 3 pull. Unique location. Ministers you control can put 1 corruption counter on an ally or younger vampire controlled by your prey as a direct action. If the action is successful and the number of your corruption counters on the minion equals or exceeds their capacity or cost, you can burn those counters to steal that minion. 2 copies of Dabbler. It's a master. Archetype. Trifle. Put this card on a vampire you control. Once each turn, after an action, successful or not, is resolved during which this vampire used 3 or more disciplines to play cards, this vampire can either burn 1 blood to unlock or gain 1 blood. A vampire can have only 1 archetype. Elder Impersonation. It's an action modifier that requires obfuscate. It costs 1 blood. At basic, +1 stealth. At superior, only usable if a minion attempts to block. That attempts fail, and the blocking minion cannot attempt to block this action again. 2 copies of Enchanting Gaze. It's an action modifier that requires protean and presence. At basic, +1 stealth. At superior, as above, and once this action, you can burn 1 of your corruption counters from a blocking minion to have their block attempt fail, and they cannot attempt to block this action again. Faceless Knight. It's an action modifier that requires obfuscate. At basic, +1 stealth. At superior, as above, and minions who attempt to block this action and fail become blocked before action resolution. Ferraille. It's a master that requires ministry. Unique. Put this card in play. Once each turn, you can burn one pool to get +3 votes during the polling step of any referendum. 3 copies of Form of Mist. It's a combat card that requires Protean. At basic, strike, dodge. At superior, strike, combat ends. After combat ends, if this vampire was blocked while performing an action, they can burn 1 blood to continue the action with +1 stealth, as if unblock, even if stealth is not yet needed. A vampire can only play 1 Form of Mist at superior each action. 2 copies of Form of the Cobra. It requires Protean. At basic, it's a combat card. Strike, steal 1 blood or life, becoming blood. At superior, it's an action modifier, only usable as the action is announced. +1 stealth, even if stealth is not yet needed. Garibaldi-Meucci Museum. It's a master, unique location. You can lock this location and burn 1 pool during your unlock phase to exchange 1 card from your hand for 1 card in your ash heap requiring an Anarch. You can lock this location before range is determined to end combat involving an Anarch you control and another Anarch. Homunculus. It's a retainer that requires Protean. Retainer with 1 life. At basic, during any Methuselah's unlock phase, the employer can burn 1 blood to unlock. At superior, as above, but Homunculus has 2 lives. Lost in Crowds. It's an action modifier that requires Obfuscate. At basic, +1 stealth. Lost in Crowds and cards named Into Thin Air cannot both be played during the same action. At superior, as above, but for +2 stealth. Obfuscate. It's a master discipline. Put this card on a vampire. This vampire gets +1 level of Obfuscate and +1 capacity. Cannot be put on a vampire with superior Obfuscate. On the Key Vibe. It's a reaction, only usable by a lock minion. A minion can play only 1 on the Key Vibe between their unlock phases. This minion wakes. They ignore the requirements to be unlocked for playing reaction cards and attempting to block until the end of the action. If this minion is an ally, they do not unlock as normal during their next unlock phase. 4 copies of Party Out of Bounds. It's a reaction, requires an Anarch. With Obfuscate, reduce a bleed against you by 2. With Presence, only usable during the polling step of a political action. This vampire gets +2 votes. With Protean, +1 intercept. 5 copies of the Platinum Protocol. It's an action, requires an Anarch. More than 1 discipline can be used to play this card. Direct action of Bleed. With Obfuscate, this is a +1 stealth action. With Presence, the bleed is with +1 bleed. With Protean, put 1 corruption counter on a minion controlled by the target Methuselah if the bleed is successful, for 1 or more. Propaganda. It's an action that requires Presence. It costs 2 blood. At basic, as a direct action, bleed with +1 bleed. Title vampires cannot block this action. At superior, as above, and the target Methuselah locks already unlocked minion they control. 2 copies of Rapid Change. It requires Protean and costs 1 blood. At basic, it's an action modifier, +1 stealth. At superior, it's a combat card, strike, combat ends. Reckless Agitation. It's a political action that costs 2 blood. Requires an independent or Anarch vampire with capacity 5 or more. Allocate 6 points among 2 or more other Methuselahs. Successful referendum means each Methuselah burns 1 pool for each point allocated. 2 copies. 3 copies of Revelation of the Serpent. It's an action modifier that requires Presence and Protean, only usable during a bleed action. At basic, +1 bleed, limited, or +1 stealth and +1 bleed, limited. At superior, as above, and if the bleed is successful, this vampire can burn 2 of your corruption counters from a minion controlled by the target Methuselah to unlock. Revolutionary Council. It's a political action that requires a Villein. Choose X ready unlocked Anarch you control and allocate 2x points among 1 or more Methuselahs, locations and equipment. Successful referendum means each chosen Anarch is locked. Each Methuselah burns 1 pool for each point allocated, and each location or equipment allocated a point is burned. Swallowed by the Night requires Obfuscate. At basic, it's an action modifier, +1 stealth. At superior, it's a combat card, Maneuver. 2 copies of Villein. It's a master trifle. Put this card on a vampire you control who has any amount of blood and move 2 to 5 blood from that vampire to your pool. Card's name, minion tab, cost +1 pool to play. Villein cost +1 pool to play on this vampire. 2 copies of Voter Captivation. It's an action modifier that requires presence. Only usable after resolution of a political action whose referendum passed. At basic, this vampire gains 1 blood for each vote by which the referendum passed. At superior, as above, but move up to 2 of those blood to your pool instead of this vampire. 2 copies of Waters of Duat. It's an action that requires ministry. It costs 1 blood. +1 stealth action requires a non-sterile minister with capacity 5 or more. Put this card in play. It becomes a 1 capacity, non-unique minister of the same sect as the acting minister and must hand this turn. You can search your library, shuffle afterwards, hand an or ash heap for a discipline master card and put it on this new vampire. And this is it for today. Remember to subscribe, hit hard the like button and activate the bell to receive the notifications for the new videos. See you in the next one.